Hey everybody, and welcome to our early comic preview video. I'm Andy.
And Matt?
And we are here.
Yes, we are here.
I tried to cram "we are here with" into Bluetooth.
We're with her.
We are here with Infinity Flux Comics out of Chattanooga, Tennessee. You'd think after all these times I'd get it down. But this is our show. We're going to go over some of the biggest and best books that are coming out this week from all the companies. So many great books releasing this week, especially the first one we actually both read, so we can talk about it a little bit more depth. Something we're kind of trying out. But head over to infinityflux.net where you can also pre-order these books or order these books right now, get them delivered to you, or if you're local, you can swing by and pick them up. But like I said, a great week for books. You have a bunch I wanted to read.
You got a bunch I wanted to read. We should just swap lists.
No. So let's get going with this. I'm going to start off with Superior Spider-Man Returns. So, I feel like I don't want to go into a full description of like, well, who is the Superior Spider-Man? Right. Hopefully most people watching this do know, but a few years ago, I forgot what year Superior Spider-Man came out.
It's been 10 years, I feel like.
It really
been? Maybe not 10.
Maybe 6 months ago.
Yeah, no, it's been a while.
It's been a while, but it was a storyline by Dan Slott where Otto Octavius switched his mind into Peter Parker's body, and he became the Superior Spider-Man because he thought, I can be Spider-Man better than Spider-Man can. It was a really good run.
Yeah.
Really fresh and interesting, having that kind of personality. He kind of made his own friends, like shunned some friends away, got new friends.
He got henchmen to wear like spider themed gear. I mean,
for the most part, he kind of did really good things. He was very.
He tried.
He tried in his Otto Octavius way.
Right.
But that was eventually reversed. Everybody got back in their bodies they were supposed to be in. But we're now. I feel like this is kind of a celebration of how long it's been since Superior Spider-Man, but a starting point for a new Superior Spider-Man. So this is not. It is kind of takes place in that time frame. Well, but it's a flashback.
Yeah, so this is a one-shot. First and foremost, let's make sure that... So there is an ongoing series that's going to start on November 15th. The first issue of that comes out November 15th. This is a one-shot to set up the story that we're going to get in that ongoing series.
A little bit of a refresher. He does kind of explain.
Yeah, especially the first couple of pages.
Yeah, here's what I was doing back then. But most of this is a flashback to the time he was Superior Spider-Man. So one of the big things I thought about the original Superior Spider-Man was how good the art was.
Yeah, yeah.
And that was kind of one of our first glimpses at Ryan Stegman's art, who comes back to do art in this. We also have Tom Coley doing art. We have Mark Bagley. We have Humberto Ramos. So many of like great classic Spider-Man, kind of modern classic Spider-Man artists coming back, taking on a couple of pages each. That is really cool to see. But in this, you have Doc Ock, who has he's trying to solve kind of his greatest invention that was never finished.
I think he's working on the thing he was working on when he first got the octopus arms.
Yeah.
Way back in the 60s. He said he never finished that. He never solved that one thing that he was trying to do. And in the flashback story, it shows him when he was the Superior Spider-Man trying to solve that thing.
And he kind of solved it. And he has this nagging feeling that I think I solved it when I was Spider-Man, but he can't remember that moment where his kind of aha moment.
Right, because his memories of the time when he was the Superior Spider-Man, they're a little bit spotty.
Yeah.
So he doesn't quite remember everything that happened.
So we get kind of a flashback to when he was Superior Spider-Man. You get some really fun, him going against the character Slide,
right?
Who is the character that no one can catch because he has no friction.
Yeah, he's a frictionless suit.
Yeah, so he skates around and everything.
I wish you just rolled around in butter before, no.
That's actually it's really fun. But you see kind of this time frame where he did kind of discover the solution to his problem.
Right.
We get introduced to a new character, Estrella Lopez, who is kind of his assistant he vetted out from everyone else,
Right.
who passed all of his tests and became like his second in command, but he never quite gave her the credit she deserved,
Right.
for sure. And I don't want to give away too much of the story because I actually think it's really good and is setting up what's to come. But if you're looking for a new series to jump onto, I think this new Superior Spider-Man is going to be really cool. It does set up who I guess the villain is in this next one.
Right. Well, this is the first appearance of that
Yeah,
villain named Supernova.
Supernova.
So that is the villain first appearance here, and then that is the villain that is going to be prevalent at least in the first arc of that new series.
Yeah, and there's a little hint, not to give anything away, but is this a villain for Doc Ock or Spider-Man? I think that's kind of
Yeah.
the
That.
funny thing of
Yeah.
like, who are they actually
Right.
after? So highly recommend picking this up. It is a bit thicker. Do you remember how many pages this was?
No.
It's maybe double size, like 48, maybe.
Maybe.
But it is a little bit bigger. It's 6.99, but well worth it. Highly recommend. Superior Spider-Man Returns.
Especially if you were a fan of Superior Spider-Man from back way back when, this is great because we get a new story, even though it's a flashback. We get a new story of Doc Ock's time as the Superior Spider-Man and a lead into the
Yeah,
ongoing series, which is going to come out in a
I
month.
feel like you also kind of, if you're were a fan of that, you can kind of see where this fits in because
Right.
there's the moment where he gets the arms
Yeah.
and like you see him discover like, oh, that's a good idea,
Yeah.
and then so it kind of fits in a certain time
Yeah.
frame that was really cool. So that is our A cover by Ryan Stegman, which just there's some fantastic panels that he does of Spider-Man fighting Slide that
Yeah.
are just super cool. We also have this Humberto Ramos variant where he's kind of shedding the Spider-Man skin. We have this Ken Lashley variant that kind of shows you the dual personalities of Spider-Man and Doc
And
Ock.
that's the cover I pre-ordered because I love that costume.
Yeah, oh,
I
that's
w-
so
like.
good.
I wish that were just like the regular Spider-Man costume all the time. I
Yeah,
love
and
that.
he has like the claws on the tips of his fingers. Sometimes
Yeah.
he doesn't,
Yeah.
but it's really cool.
All right, so first for me is Capwolf and the Howling Commandos #1, a good book in time for spooky season. This is going to be, I think, a 5-issue miniseries, maybe 4. I'm not 100% sure, but a miniseries nonetheless. This is set back in World War II. So the book opens up with the Howling Commandos. Fury, Dum Dum Dugan, all those guys. They are fighting a group of Nazis. And Fury, during that fight, Fury gets injured. He gets his legs get hurt, but then Captain America comes in and saves them all. Uh, Later, after that battle, the Howling Commandos and Cap they receive intelligence that a large group of Nazi forces are guarding one specific base, fortress, whatever you want to call it, because they say that it's set in World War II, but they say that by that time the Nazi forces are a little bit in disarray, except for this one base over here where there's just a whole bunch of them congregated together, and they said that they need to get information about what's going on there and then probably destroy it. Well, Fury is hurt, so he can't go on that mission. So Captain America has to lead them in. He's a little bit unsure of himself still because this is still in the early days of Cap being Cap. The Howling Commandos, they're unsure of him. Dum Dum Dugan actually says, "You're a marketing ploy. Why should we follow you? You haven't proven yourself." And he has a problem where he says, "Well, Cap can just run in head first to fight the enemies because he can. He's enhanced. He's got a little bit more abilities." But we don't have his abilities, so should we follow him? He can do these things, but we can't. So it's a little bit strained. Their relationship is still a bit strained because again, at the time, Cap hasn't really proven himself yet. But Cap does lead them anyway. Um, they parachute out of a plane about 5 miles out from where they need to go, but on their way to getting to this base, they are attacked by a group of werewolves. And we do see a page or two where there's like I don't know if it's somebody that we're supposed to know or not, but there is like a kind of like a mad scientist but slash sorceress almost
Hmm.
in this base trying to do something. Don't get a whole lot of detail about that, but it's they're basically conducting an experiment, and then we see the results of that are a bunch of werewolves come out of the woods and attack Cap and the Howling Commandos, and they're all fighting them off. And during the battle, Cap gets scratched by one of them. and I won't tell you what happens from that, but based on the title,
He
you can tell.
returns just
Yeah,
fine.
he puts some he rubs some dirt on it and it's fine. And this does not. No, but so the story, we're gonna have to see like what happens after that, how it all plays out, obviously in the next issues. But if you like Cap Wolf from back in the original run of Captain America, I want to say it happened in the 90s, I think. Then this is just more of that very very fun story, and again a good timing for Halloween. So we've got our A cover right there, and then we only have one variant, at least here at the store, and this is by Gary Frank, which looks really really cool.
So that's interesting. I haven't I know the Cap Wolf
Yeah,
issues of Captain America. I've never read them, but I've known of the character because he's kind of not a meme, but
yeah,
people know
he's
about. He's
infamous.
very
Yeah.
infamous as like such a weird mashup between Captain America and werewolf. But is does he get turned to a werewolf multiple times, or is this how he originally got turned into a
Well,
werewolf?
I feel like this is could almost be counted as almost like an Elseworld story
Yeah,
because like it seems like it would come up in conversation. Oh,
yeah.
remember that time in World War II I turned into a werewolf? So just I wouldn't worry about any other kind of continuity whatsoever. Just enjoy this book for what it is. But I just thought it was cool being set in World War II. I like Captain America back in that time. Yeah, so I mean
I hope we end up getting him fighting like Frankenstein or
that
something
would be
like
so
that.
cool. Yeah.
Be great. Give me the horror Avengers that are
uh,
just all the
I would
monster
absolutely read
versions
that.
of them.
Yeah.
But that is super cool. I'm
Yeah.
excited to read that one. That is one I did put on my pull list because I'm like I've always loved Capwolf as like a concept,
Right.
but I've never read
And now we're
anything.
getting a whole mini
We're now
series
getting a
of it.
whole
Yeah.
miniseries. Okay, so next up for me, speaking of miniseries,
Ooh.
I was like, what's a good segue? This is Wesley Dodds Sandman. I believe this is aren't most of these 6 issues.
Yeah, I think so.
I think these 3 Golden Age books that they are doing. So, and it's kicking it off with Wesley Dodds Sandman. So, some of the new Golden Age books that kind of run in the same realm as the Justice Society of America books. I know, like the Jay Garrick one is going to be set like modern
Mhm.
day, runs alongside Justice Society of America. But this one actually takes place in the Golden Age, which is really cool. This actually takes place before the JSA has
Oh,
been put
okay.
together, which is like, oh, this is like the earliest years
Yeah.
of the DC universe. So this is written by Robert Vendetti and Riley Rossmo does the art. So it has a very cool design, and Riley Rossmo's art, like some places, it really shines. And I feel like Harley Quinn worked really well,
Yeah.
and this works really well with the time period and just kind of the aesthetic of
Mhm.
Sandman is really cool. So, like I said, this actually takes place before the JSA are assembled, and we know that because Wesley Dodds at this time is been Sandman for a while,
Okay.
but he has kind of prophetic dreams, and one of them is he basically talks about like these like characters dressed up in costumes that are fighting together
Yeah.
and
Oh,
stuff.
that was on those preview pages.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
so
remember that. Yeah.
he kind of knows that like that there's something coming, but at this point in his career, he actually is kind of semi feeling like hanging up the gas mask,
Mhm.
retiring. He's got a gal by his side. This is the 30s or 40s,
Right.
so it's real fun. It's real swinging place. Uh, but uh, he's thinking about doing that, and mostly because he's kind of refined his father's formula for these gases that he can make, and he's a non-lethal hero. He's kind of like Batman for the most part, and he's found a way of like knocking out criminals. And he's like, I actually think this could be really good for the war effort. And so he goes to like he has like this guy that he knows who introduces him to this general, and it's like, hey, here's my idea. This is actually I think will be really good because this takes place during I think World War II, and he's like, here's this formula I created, and it's a non-lethal way of fighting the criminal or the enemy, and it can knock him out, and this is going to be great. And he thinks this is like a surefire win, and basically the general guy's like, our job is to kill the enemy and not do this. He basically talks to the other guy who brought him in and is like, I thought you had something good here, but no, we don't need you or whatever. So Wesley Dodds is really, his heart has sunk from this because he was really hoping this would be his out
Right.
and that he would be doing a really good thing with his research. But his the guy he's with is like, hey, I'm throwing a party tonight. Go to that; it'll cheer you up. And so he attends that, but while at the party, someone is going to sneak into his headquarters and steal his journal. This isn't a spoiler because that's even in the
Sure.
solicitation that has his formulas for all of his gases. And even talks about earlier that, when some of them he was trying them out, they didn't work so well. Some of them like cause like people's muscles to fail and all this stuff. He wanted a non-lethal way of doing it, and some of it ended up being pretty lethal. And now people have his formulas for the bad stuff. Who is it? What's going to happen? We'll have to keep reading to find out. But I thought this was a really cool first issue of a miniseries, and there is at least one other soon-to-be hero that he meets, and very passively. But if you know like people's secret identities, you see who it is. I think it's gonna be really cool for people to find out as well. But the art is fantastic. It's really cool, especially just all the weird gas stuff, the dream sequences, all of that are really cool.
Yeah, Roscoe's art, in my opinion, doesn't fit everything, but like you said, it worked great on Harley Quinn,
Yeah.
and the preview pages I saw, it looks great on that too.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm super excited to read it.
Yeah, so I think people should really try this out. And one of my notes in this is it feels like even the way Vendetti has kind of worded the dialogue and even the captions and stuff. I said it feels a lot like The Shadow or the Green Hornet,
Yeah.
kind
Okay.
of like those pulpy adventure stories. So I think if you like that kind of stuff, you'll really enjoy this. We've got some variants for this as well. So we actually have a super cool foil version
Virgin foil.
virgin
Yeah.
foil of the A cover by Rossimo.
Is that one of those where they need to ask their shop about the price, or
I
is
actually
that the
think
price
that one
set?
has the
Okay.
correct price on it. We also have this Grant variant. He's very like Rorschach there, or
Yeah.
something. That's really cool. I love this one. This one is so unique. This is by Rivas, and I just think this has such a cool
Yeah.
look to it. But
It
there's
looks like
some,
he's breathing in his own gas, so as you
yeah.
recall
Well,
saying.
everybody loves their own brand.
Right. All right. So next for me is Batman. I lost my train of thought. Batman City of Madness. Holy cow. So yeah, right here. I think this is going to be a 3-issue miniseries. This is a Black Label book, so I just like to point that out so that you know. Oh, Black Label. That means you don't have to worry about any other continuity
Yeah.
whatsoever. It's its own story. It can tell whatever story it wants to tell. So yeah, a new Black Label book, written and drawn by Christian Ward, so it has a very distinctive art style. So this is a really cool story. I really enjoyed this one. So this is about basically there is a twisted mirror version of Gotham that lives below the regular Gotham City, and I think it's like on the back it refers to it as Gotham Below. You know, that's a good way to separate the
Is it
two.
underground? Does it have a sky?
Well, we don't actually see it yet,
Okay.
but we do see the doorway to it. The doorway to it is actually deep, deep underground, and it has been guarded by the Court of Owls for 100 years. They have just kind of like made sure that this big round door never gets opened. But yeah, we don't see what
Okay.
Gotham Below looks like. Um, but in Gotham Below, there are twisted mirror versions of people who live in Gotham City. We don't see them either, except for there is a twisted mirror version of Batman that lives in Gotham Below. Well, through a series of circumstances, that door opens,
Mm.
and the Batman of Gotham Below actually gets out and makes it into Gotham City proper. So the Court of Owls, they have to make a plan to ask Batman for his help, and they're going to have to stop the other Batman. You know, actually put him back in his home, basically. So they're going to have to form an uneasy alliance to make that happen. There's also a couple other things going on in this book. Two Face plays a role, at least in this first issue. Two Face reaches out to Batman because he can hear a voice calling to him. He says that at one point, Batman says, "Is it like a third identity? You have Harvey Dent and Two Face, but
Oh.
is there a third person in there with you?" But he says it's not that. It's just I can hear another voice calling, and we actually do see what I guess is Two Face from that also from that Gotham Below, and he is Two Faced just like Two Face is, but in a different way, and I'll just say that.
Okay.
So he does look different. There's also a young boy who has traveled from Smallville to Gotham to kill a cop who killed his dad. His dad was a good man, but he was actually an innocent bystander. I don't know how long ago it actually happened, but his dad was an innocent bystander when this cop was trying to take down some other criminal. His dad got killed accidentally, but then the cop went on TV and lied about it and said, "Oh
Mhm.
yeah, that guy was a drug dealer. You know, it was justified or whatever."
Mhm.
So now that kid has come from Smallville to get revenge on that cop for killing his dad, but the Batman from the Gotham Below intervenes, and we actually do get to see what that twisted mirror version of Batman looks like. And I'm not going to say what he looks like, but he definitely doesn't look like just regular Batman.
Yeah.
I won't say what he looks like, but it is pretty cool. So it just kind of gave me vibes of if it's okay to say like Stranger Things, you know, the Upside
Yeah.
Down, because that's kind of what it felt like. Even though we didn't see it, it's like, oh, there's a Gotham below a Gotham. It's like, oh, the Upside Down.
Yeah.
Um, so it gave me that. It had some Lovecraftian vibes to it, and it was just really, really good. Like I was actually kind of surprised with how good it was. You know, these Black Label books are a little bit thicker, and I thought it would take me a while to get through, but it's a page turner. Like I was
Mhm.
just like, oh, what's gonna, you know, the Court of Owls, yes, Two Face, okay. Oh, this other weird Batman, sure. Like it was really, really good. So I recommend this if you're looking for a good, easy to read but super interesting Batman story. This one was a really, really good one. So yeah, we've got our A cover right there, and we've got a couple of variants as well. This is from uh oh, Sienkiewicz. I should have known that. Duh. I should have realized that. Oh, actually, you know what? That you
Yeah.
kind of get a look at the other Batman right there. Uh which is I still not a perfect look at him, but you get an idea. And then we have this 1 in 25 Simmons variant. So that's your Department of Truth author or illustrator right there. Giving us a variant for this.
Very cool. And I
Yeah.
like how it's not like they don't try to over explain what is this place or anything like that. It's just like just just take for granted that this is true. Like
Yeah.
there is really is another Gotham
Yeah.
down there. Okay, now let's play with that idea.
Yeah, and it really, I mean, what's super helpful to understand this story is on the back, um, the summary that they give on the back. That's all you need to know. Like, so just read that and then read the book, and you'll be set, and
That's
you'll enjoy
awesome.
it. Yeah, it's really good.
Okay, speaking of Batman, I have Batman and Robin #2. So this is by Joshua Williamson, and the art is by Simone DeMeo. And I really like the first issue of this.
Hmm. Yeah.
I think part of us going into a new Batman and Robin series is even any new Batman series, it almost has to prove why it exists. We have Batman, we have Detective Comics. So if there's another Batman book, it's like, well, okay, what is this Batman book? What
Yeah.
is sets this apart? And what I really got from the first issue is bringing the dynamic back of Batman and Robin and father and son, Bruce and Damian. And that continues in this one. So we left off in the last issue where we saw there was a swarm of bats heading for Batman. I can't remember if they attacked him yet or not, but someone has basically shot Batman with these pellets that release a pheromone that actually cause bats to attack Batman. So it's very not even Batman this says like this wasn't an attack to kill me. This was like a warning and kind of a little bit of kind of a psychological thing. The
Mm.
thing that he uses to instill fear in people has turned on him. So there's a character behind the scenes that is definitely playing this game with Batman. It's really interesting. So you see on the cover here, this is our first full appearance of Shush, who appears to be like a female equivalent of Hush, but I'll say in this, she's not the one who is like the big villain.
Okay.
It seems like someone is talking to her and like she is kind of one of the not a henchman, but like a not the top bad guy in this. She may be behind some of the attacks against Batman, but we see kind of a shadowy thing and some speech balloons that are not attached to anybody. So it's kind of like this ambient voice
Okay.
that she's hearing that's actually a different color. So it definitely, there's something bigger to
Right.
this than just that. But you do see her plenty in this. She's definitely, it's not like a big reveal. She's like on the second or third page. I think the second page has Shush on it. So I think we're going to be introduced to her um, over the course of these issues, who she is and why she's kind of sporting this look. Now, there is maybe some hints to who she is, and that may go all the way back to Damien's past before he even met his father
Okay.
when he was still being trained as an assassin by Talia. You'll have to read it to see. I feel like there's some connective tissue there, especially a bat is brought in to that part of the story with Damien that kind of mirrors something later. So you'll have to see that, which is really cool. But I feel like the strongest part of the series is the relationship between Batman and Robin and Bruce and Damien. Because after Batman gets attacked by all these bats, Robin has to stitch him up. And he even talks about, like, well, Alfred taught me how to do
Okay. Yeah.
stitches without leaving scars and stuff
Huh.
like that.
Useful.
And yeah, and Bruce is like, that's awesome. Like, they have this bonding moment of like, oh, you learned kind of from who I learned
Right.
from and stuff like that. And there's even a moment where Batman does something and Damien says like, man, you're prepared. You really are prepared for everything. And Batman's like, that's the nicest thing you've ever said to me. It's really good. Like all that stuff is really strong. But the other part of the story is Damien going to school. It was kind of teased in the
Oh
previous
yeah.
one that
Yeah.
Bruce is like, hey, it sounded like you really grew as a person on Lazarus Island when you were around kids your age. So I'm gonna put you in just like public school. And we see Damien's almost first full day of school. Let's just say he would rather be out roaming the streets as Robin than being in a classroom, but he'll let his presence be known in that classroom when maybe someone makes fun of some of his writings. So you have to read it to find out. But just really, really fun issue of Batman and Robin. Highly recommended. The art is fantastic. It's such a unique style, and I think there's gonna be some really big stuff coming out of this. One of the other cool things I thought in that too was in Poison Ivy, Killer Croc is like a big part in
Yeah.
that current run.
Yeah.
And actually, you see Killer Croc leading into Poison Ivy's story,
Oh.
where he's
Okay.
like, "Hey, I'm going over here to do this thing." It's
Okay.
like, oh, that kind of ties us into like when does this take place? We've got quite a few variants for this. So starting out, we've got um, the Spotlight Bellotto variant. This is very cool. We have this Kale New variant, which Killer Croc is in this, but they do not throw down with him like that. But, maybe someday. We have this super cool Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong variant by David Baldion, facing off against Kong
Cannot
there.
wait for that.
We also have this Matina variant with Robin. And then we also have a 1 in 50 Demio variant that we're selling for $35. And I can't remember if this issue is the first appearance of Robin's own vehicle, like his own Batmobile, what they call it, the Robinmobile, of course.
Wasn't it in
I think
last
it was in
issue?
the first issue, but you see it a little bit more in
Okay.
this one too. And so that's the design for it. And then this one, I think a lot of people are going to be wanting. This is the 1 in 25 Lyrics Lee variant. Shush on there that we are selling for $40. So head over to infinityflux.net right now, pick that up. And before we go any further, I did want to remind you about that. infinityflux.net. Head over there right now. You can order these books that we're showing off right now. Follow along. Check out books that are coming up. Pre-order books. Everything you pre-order, you get 10% off of. Just so much good stuff over there. Get our exclusive cover for the new
Toy Box of
Toy
Terror.
Box of
Yeah.
Terrors. Yeah, that's like the main title of it. Toy Box of Terrors that I did the cover for, and pick up one of our spooky Halloween Infinity
Yeah.
Flux t-shirts.
I
That
love that shirt. It feels so good. Yeah.
it's really
Mhm.
nice. You can grab it all there at infinityflux.net. So,
But wait,
but wait, there's
if
more.
you want to buy something from the website, yeah, you can use the promo code I love Flux and get 10% off of your order. That's a one-time use code, but it will stack with the 10% discount that you get if you pre-order books. So if you want to pre-order something, get 10% off. and maybe get a little bit more off. Use the code I love Flux and get another 10% off, and it's super cool.
That's a great thing, you know.
All right, so next for me is not that one. This one, Knights #1. So this is a new series from Image Comics. This is written by Wyatt Kennedy, and the art is by Luigi Formisano. Now, in order to give you an idea about what this book is about, I'm going to read you the super quick what is on the inside cover,
Hmm.
because it sort of helps establish what this world is like. This says Florida is owned by Spain. America consists of 31 states. Vampires, ghosts, and other supernatural creatures are common and benign. The internet is infantile and irrelevant, which that seems pretty true today, right? Now, and this is also set back in 1999 as well. So if that may give you a little bit of an idea about the kind of world we're living in here. It's very real worldy, but there's also a lot of differences as well. So there's a lot of different moving parts in this book, a lot of characters, a lot of different situations to sort of get your brain around. But this issue does largely serve as a way to introduce us to these characters and their life and things like that. So it's about a boy named Vince who, after the death of his parents, he actually moves to Santo Pedro, Florida, to live with his cousin Ivory and Ivory's roommates, Matt and Gray, who Gray is a vampire. So
Hmm.
right there, there's like there's your cast of characters right there. We also meet a couple others in the beginning, but they don't show up again in this issue, so I don't know if there'll be more to that later. So yeah, the first part of this book, like I said, just introducing us to the various characters. But we do learn something about Ivory, that he has a very sinister job. Like this, if your first couple of pages of this, you're like, oh, this is a fun story and oh, vampires and stuff. But Gray, who is the vampire in this book, she's not like a mean vampire, and the ghosts in the book aren't mean ghosts. Like it's almost like they're just other members of society. Gray is we see her, she works as a pizza delivery person, but the pizzas always come out. She delivers one, but it's all like messed up because she flies,
Uh,
and so the box gets tipped off, and so not a whole lot of meanness there. But there is something more sinister. We do see what Ivory's job is, and it is not doing good things. Um, then, about halfway through the book, and don't worry, I'm not going to spoil anything, but about halfway through the book, there's a 5 year time jump.
wow.
And we see how each character has changed, where they're at now in their lives. And I don't know if, because that was only halfway through issue 1, so I don't know if maybe the next issue goes back to 1999 and we see that for a little bit. And at times, I don't know if this story is going to jump back and forth. We'll have to wait and see. But then at the end of the book, there's another time jump that it's not necessarily a time jump, but it's more like a preview into the future and what the world is going to look like, and it's crazy. Like I
More
don't understand.
crazy than what
Yeah, like
the
I
book
don't
already
see,
is.
like you're reading the book, okay, oh, these new characters, and oh, there's a vampire, and oh, there's a ghost, and that's weird but funny. Oh, Ivory has kind of a strange, an unsavory type of job, okay. And then, oh, 5 year time jump. Oh, so here's where they are now. You read, time jump again at the end. It's like, oh my god, like how is this story gonna get to that? I
Yeah.
have no idea. So it's a weird description, I know, but there's just like I said, there's a whole lot of different stuff going on in this first issue that you have to sort of figure out who these new characters are, but also what the world that they live in is like. And then, yeah, when you turn that last page or two, like I don't even know how they're going to wind up in that, in that scenario, that situation, how it's all going to come to that. So, but it was really good though. It's definitely different. They're definitely establish a new and different world from a lot of other books. So, yeah, if you're looking for something just new and fresh and with some mystery to it, then Knights is pretty good. I like this one quite a bit, so I can't wait to see what happens next. And this is the only cover as well, just the A cover, nothing else to pick up.
Very cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, your description, like, I remember hearing the solicitation for it.
yeah,
I'm like, this already, like, I don't know what kind of book this is.
yeah,
So that did clear it up a little bit. About it's kind of a surrealist.
yeah. It's
eh,
like the world is just different, and Like there's one where they're like outside getting drinks out of a vending machine, and this ghost, who actually looks more like a skeleton really than a ghost, but he just goes jogging by, and Vince, just got there. I guess maybe he's not really used to him. He's like, "Whoa, look at that!" And the person he's with is like, "Yeah, you'll see that. No big deal."
Hmm.
And the ghost actually stops and pops in and like interjects on their conversation just for a second. But he's wearing like headphones and he's just jogging along. And but that's just what this world is like. And it seems like okay, this is
Are they
fun.
all kind of Halloween creatures?
Um,
Kind of vampires, werewolves,
no,
ghosts?
there's no werewolf. It's just we only see one vampire, and
Oh,
but
okay.
but you're supposed to understand that vampires are just accepted, and
Yeah.
um, but yeah, so it's all this is a fun story. These characters seem cool. Turn the page. Oh, how is that gonna happen? How is this
Okay.
gonna get to that? You know,
That that's quite the hook. I am now
it's
intrigued.
a big,
I,
it's
I
a
need to
yeah,
read
yeah,
this.
big mystery.
Okay, next up for me is Amazing Spider-Man number 35. So, I don't want to give away too much about this issue because this is the final part of this storyline that's been going on where Peter Parker was injected. I don't know how you describe what happened to him.
Wasn't he stabbed
He
with the
was stabbed
spear?
with a spear
Yeah.
that had the sins of Norman Osborn in it that were taken out of him by Sin Eater, put into him, and he became this very malicious version of Spider-Man that really posed a threat to anyone who'd ever wronged him. He donned the black suit again, craziness. So he is in the last issue going out to find. He had put Craven in the grave
Yeah.
alive, and he had gone out to find Mary Jane and Paul,
Paul.
and that's kind of the like the ticking clock of like, oh no, like what's going to happen to them. But we did see that someone got Craven out of his grave, and Norman Osborn is also kind of on the hunt for Peter to try to stop him before he does anything, that he can't come back from. So this issue is really cool because it's you actually get to see a fight between Peter and Mary Jane, but as Spider-Man, and at least she uses her. She doesn't have the jackpot suit on,
All right.
but she's doing those powers. And it's kind of cool to see like a superpowered Mary Jane go up against kind of an evil Spider-Man.
Yeah.
It's a new look. And the art's done by Patrick Gleason, which is
Yep. Oh yeah.
fantastic.
Sold.
Yeah, but it's a really cool issue, and I don't want to say how it ends. But the thing I will say is there's some places reporting that this is the beginning of a 24 issue story where Peter Man,
Yeah.
Spider Parker, where he dons a spider goblin persona and goes off.
Yeah, it says something about he becomes like some kind of spider goblin, and that's going to set up the next 24 issues, and that is not
Not
true.
true at all.
No.
So if you're looking for that, I maybe because of this cover, people were thinking that, but that does not happen at all. There, there's really this has a pretty definite end to it.
Is this
To
the
this,
end to this story arc?
yes,
Okay.
like this is the end of the story arc. There's a little like pepper at the end that's like, oh, maybe the sins of Norman Osborn have gone somewhere. But, for the most part, it looks like most of this story is wrapped up and characters are kind of where they're supposed to be. But I thought it was a really good issue, it was a really good kind of end cap on this the storyline that I thought has been pretty interesting. And I'm looking forward to seeing what, we're leading up to the gang war stuff
Yeah.
in Spider-Man and a bunch of kind of tie-in books
Mhm.
and everything. But and there's a hint of that too.
Okay.
You do see some of the machinations of that in the beginning of it. But overall, really cool issue of Amazing Spider-Man. But don't be looking for it for the first appearance of Spider Goblin.
Yep.
That's just kind of a cover thing.
Right.
This does not happen in the issue. We got a few variants for this. We've got this Tony Daniel variant. Very cool. We've got this
Hmm.
very creepy Casagrande variant with zombie
Oh, he's got
Spider-Man.
the spider in his eye,
Yeah,
looking like a pupil.
very cool. We also have Mickey Mouse as Spider-Man in this 300 homage cover. Not actually foil. It's faux foil. It looks like it would be foil, but it's not. And then we also have this really cool 1 in 25 Gleason variant that we're selling for $15.
I like that one a lot.
Yep.
Rest of the next for me is Captain Marvel: Assault on Eden. So this is just a one shot, and I feel like this is to get you ready for the Marvels, right? The
Yeah.
Marvels is coming out next month, and if you're craving for a little bit of Captain Marvel right now, although isn't that the new series isn't out
Dark
yet?
Tempest.
Yeah, is that still going on, or did
Yeah,
that finish?
that's wrapping up in a few weeks, and then the new number one will
Yeah.
be
So
coming out.
so there's enough Captain Marvel to read right now, but if you want a little bit more, you can have this one shot right here. This actually also has a short backup story featuring Monica and Rambeau. But the main story of this is Carol is on Hala, which is the Kree Skrull throne world. After they've well, the reason she's there is because they're celebrating the 1 year anniversary of peace between the Kree and the Skrull that we know has happened in recent years in Marvel. So she's there visiting Hulkling and Wiccan, and some old Kree sentries attack and capture Hulkling and some of the children that are around them as well. And so Carol, has to go find them. She finds them in a Kree ship above the planet, and they're being controlled by the Supreme Intelligence. So she rescues Hulkling, but then and they have to fight against the Supreme Intelligence and all these sentries to save the children. Wiccan gets in there and does some stuff too. So just nothing. I mean, obviously it's connected to the main Marvel universe because they're talking about the peace between the Kree and the Skrull. But just a one and done story, beginning, middle, and end, and you're done. It's not going to continue to anything else. Like I said, just a primer to get you ready for the Marvels. But it was still pretty fun, especially if you're a big Captain Marvel fan. You definitely may want to pick this up. And yeah, I mentioned the brief story at the end featuring Monica Rambeau. That was only like 3 or 4 pages, I think. But yeah, if you just want to jump in on some Captain Marvel, get ready for the movie, you've got that one shot right there.
That's what this is a book that working in a comic book store I really like because there's a lot of people who will watch the movie are new to it
Yeah.
and are like, what, I want more of that. Where can I get it? And instead of being like, well, here's a full trade of it, or here's, issue three of
Yeah.
something. It's like, okay, here's this one book, especially kids who they
Yep.
don't care about, the long continuity or anything. They just want like a single, like, I want to read something Captain Marvel. This kind of stuff is perfect to hand
Yeah.
them and
Yeah, it's very kid friendly. I mean, a new reader might be confused, like who's Hulkling, who's Wiccan, but you don't really have to know that to
no.
understand what's going on. Oh, they're friends of Carol's, basically, and one gets kidnapped. She has to go save them, and she uses powers and things like that. So yeah, it would be a great book if you watch the movie, then want to read more. This would be a really good one to get. So
Yeah.
I believe there is one variant, but this is the only one we have in store, just this A cover.
Very cool. And next up for me is Star Wars Dark Droids issue number 3. So this has been a very interesting Star Wars story. It feels it's not super Star Warsy. I'll have to say it doesn't feature a lot of the main Star Wars cast. This is mostly about droids, especially this the main I think it's gonna be 5 issue story arc. So we're following mostly a Scourge, who is the entity that is kind of infecting all the droids. He does take on a form in this, which is very spiky. He's a very spiky droid man, which is really cool looking. And he has a new ship that was a retrofitted Star Destroyer that's called the Scourge 1. And it's a very spiky Star Destroyer. So
Interesting.
he's all about the
Yeah, and
spikiness.
don't hug it.
Kind of looks like if IG-88 was also a sea urchin. That's my best description of what a sea urchin
You need
IG-88.
to draw that now.
I know. But this is it's a cool issue. We see, he finally's decided his big goal is to he's can spread throughout droids to take over the galaxy, but he knows he won't do anything until he can take over like humans or fleshy beings. And so that's what he's going to attempt to do. And his way to get there is to infect cyborgs who are part machine, part man. And who's the best one to go after? It's Darth Vader, the biggest, best cyborg ever. So he is going to try and take on Vader's castle on Mustafar, actually posing as C3PO, which is a pretty interesting idea. Um, but he learns that Vader also has a bunch of droids in his castle that he's going to try to infect. And Vader at this point is out of the armor. He's floating in his bacta tank. No arms, no legs, no armor. Just that. this what looks very vulnerable. But is that Vader vulnerable? Of course
No.
not. So you'll have to read to find out how this no armed, no legged Darth Vader takes on all the droids in his own compound. But it is very cool to see. A very interesting issue of Dark Droids. So that is our A cover for that. We also have a Ken Lashley cover for that, which I think looks
Ooh,
super
yeah.
cool.
That could be a movie poster.
Yeah. Uh, we also have this John Tyler Christopher action figure variant with Valence.
I
It was
love
kind of a
those.
key part in the Bounty Hunters book right
Hmm.
now.
All right, so next I've got Creepshow Volume 2, Number 2. And just like all the other ones, two more stories just on their own, disconnected from anything else. Nice anthology book. In this one, there's two stories. One is called The Man with No Eyes, written and drawn by Michael Walsh, who is or at least I know him from The Silver Coin. I love The Silver Coin, and wish we would get more. So he did the first story in this. It's about a kid named Dan who lives with his dad. His dad has to work late shifts and can't afford a babysitter. So Dan, who's probably younger than 10, like he has to stay home by himself. So he just stays up watching TV all night long. One night, he's flipping channels and he sees a magician on TV that looks like he's talking directly to Dan and showing him some pretty strange magic tricks. Well, one night his dad gets fired from his job for being late, and he blames Dan for that because he says you should have woken me up, in time for me to get to work. So he blames Dan and takes it out on him by smashing the TV because he says you're always watching that TV. Smashes the TV, and Dan gets all upset because he says now I'm going to be alone because the TV keeps me company at night.
I understand that.
Yeah, but it doesn't. Well, so Dan thinks he's going to be alone, but then we see the magician who was on TV actually sort of comes out of the next room and says, "Don't worry, Dan. You're not alone. I'm with you now." And it just gets crazy from there. I'm not going to tell you what happens, but I showed Andy like right
Yeah.
before, and there's some pretty disturbing imagery, especially considering it's a kid. But that's what Creepshow is for. So I won't tell you what happens after that, but it's creepy as all get out. But the other one's a story called "Keep It Down." It's about a woman named Amy who carries the family tradition of being able to speak to and hear the dead. And the ghosts that talk to her, I mean, they're fairly harmless. All they really want is just for her, or is just for their stories to be heard by somebody. But as more and more ghosts learn that she can hear them, more and more ghosts come flocking to her and say, "Hey, I want you to hear my story, or I want you to deliver a message to some relative or something." To the point where like it starts to affect her life. Like she can't go out on dates. She can't just have a normal life because there's always all these ghosts just in her ear, just talking to her all the time. So she takes, let's just say she takes extreme measures to not be able to hear them anymore. But because she does that, she also can't hear the warnings that they're giving her about something else. And that's all I'll say. So you'll have to see what happens at the end of that too. But just, I love Creepshow. I just love, this is a great book to read month to month. I know a lot of people, wait for trades and stuff. But this is a great book to read every month because you get two brand new stories that don't connect to anything else. You read them, you're done. They're super creepy. They're always really good, and the endings are always great. So if you like Creepshow, definitely don't miss this issue. We have this A cover here, and we have a couple of variants. This is by Michael Walsh, who is the artist and the writer of the first story. And then we have this really cool 1 in 10 Skinner variant that we're selling for $15. I love Creepshow. It's so good.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that there's another horror anthology book going on, especially since I think Silver Coin is kind of on hiatus,
I
I
guess, yeah,
guess.
it's been
Or
it's been away for a while. Yeah, Silver Coin is another great one to read month to month because it's just its own story.
yeah.
I love those books.
Okay, so next up for me, I've got World's Finest Teen Titans #4. So isn't this only a 5 issue miniseries?
I think
Is it
6.
6? It's still really interesting because, none of the issues so far have been connecting. So it's interesting that it's like a miniseries, but you can pretty much pick up any of these books
Yeah.
and they're
Oh yeah.
standalone
Yeah,
stories
for sure.
about the original Teen Titans. I thought this one was really good. So this is not a very action-packed issue. There's a B plot that does have action in it, but the main one is Wally West invites Roy Harper and Garth Aqualad over to his house, like his family house, for kind of a sleepover type thing. And Wally's parents are there, which is really funny, and they don't know about the Teen Titans. So they kind of have to. He kind of has to justify to them who these friends are and where they're from. Um, which is very funny because one, Roy Harper's kind of a jerk. His uh Green Arrow is very rich, and so he kind of comes in with that like rich kid swagger. And then Garth is different because he was raised uh under the sea. He's
Yeah.
kind of uh Atlantean adjacent or whatever, and things for him are very weird. Like Wally's mom makes him soup. She makes everybody soup, and he's like, "This is like water with stuff in it." And she makes a grilled cheese, and he's like, "I don't like this" or whatever. And then Wally has to be like, "Well, it's the dairy. He can't do the
All
dairy."
right.
And
Yeah.
she's like, "Oh, okay, I'm sorry," or whatever. And she's like, "What do you want instead?" He's like, water." And he always wants water, and he constantly goes to the bathroom. And it's really interesting, because it's a little fish out of water story,
Yeah.
but it's also,
No pun intended.
yeah, but it's very much about the relationship between these three and how Garth doesn't quite fit in. He's having trouble because he's been dating Donna Troy, and she's kind of the polar opposite of him in personality, and he's not quite used to that because where he's from, and he likes kind of the calm and everything. And she's very over the top all the time. It's a really interesting story. And then in the B story in this, no pun intended, is Bumblebee.
All right.
Uh, contacts one of her friends. It might even be her brother. Uh,
Is it Mal?
yeah.
Yeah.
And she gives him a gift of a golden shield. And she says, "Hey, I kind of want you to join my team." And he's like, "I don't know about this." But she's like, "If you ever decide, just press that button on the back, and well, you'll see what
Yeah.
happens." And of course, something happens where he has to press the button. But that's a really fun story. There is action in that. They fight the ant, which is a very obscure character. But it was really fun. But the real meat of it, I think, is the personal relationships in the A story, and it's just really funny.
Yeah.
Roy being rich, Wally trying to convince his parents that all these people here are normal. There's even a part where they're like, "We're really concerned about your friend," and Wally's like, "I know, Garth. He's foreign and he doesn't quite get there." They're like, "No, not him. He's great. He can come over whenever he wants." That Roy guy, he's a bad influence on
Yeah.
you. It's really funny. So I really enjoyed this issue of World's Finest Teen Titans. We also have this Doc Shaner variant for it. And I love this one. This is the John Timms variant with all of them hanging out.
Great. I love John Tim's stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So next for me is Avengers number 6. So this is the final issue of this first story arc. It's the final battle basically between the Avengers and the Ashen Combine. So the last several issues, we've only seen a couple members of the Avengers and who they're fighting and what they're up against. So this one actually does show us all the different battles going on. At the same time, how you know. Every different Avenger, who they're facing off against, but also, uh, how they sort of how they end this fight that each one of them are having, right? Because they've all been on the ropes for a while now, so we do see how they sort of get out of all of that. We also do see what ends up happening with the Impossible City, which is literally just like this big, well, it looks like a big spaceship, but it's more like a city floating in space, which is where the Ashen Combine came down from in the first place. We know we've seen over the last couple issues that Captain America and Black Panther they snuck onto that. They try to learn the secrets of the Ashen Combine. Black Panther is placing explosives everywhere. So we learn what ends up happening with all that, and I actually wasn't expecting it to end the way it did, and it does make me want to see how that's then going to play into maybe the next story arc. So just another really solid issue of this really good Avengers run. So if you've been reading this story arc so far, don't miss this because this is the end of this story, and then next issue is going to be the start of a new story arc. I don't know if it's going to be another of the tribulation events or not because the first one was what was it? The Fall of the Impossible City, I think is what it
Mhm.
was called. So yeah, that all wraps up right here, and it's super duper fun. So we have our A cover right there. We have a few variants with this one. We have this really nice Mark Brooks corner box variant. I love that lineup. I love that. I
Mhm.
love the Hulk right in the middle. Like he looks super cool. Oh, that's the Marvel now because you got the black and gold
Yeah.
Iron Man and yeah, so very
That's the
cool.
Hulk that was wearing the armor
That's right.
that had that like
Yeah,
suit.
that's right. Yep. So there's that one. We've also got this Swaby variant featuring the team right there. And then we have, I really like this one, this Kerrigan variant. It's all issues of Avengers were always fun where they figured out who was going to be the new members of the
Yeah.
team. And I don't remember which cover, but this is an homage to one of the covers, maybe 200 and something, I think, where Cap is standing in a wall of screens and trying to figure out who's going to join the team. So that one is super cool as well.
Very cool. I'm excited to. I'm not fully caught up on Avengers, so
Yeah, it's been
this
it's
will
been
probably
really
be
good.
the chunk I read
Yeah, it's
next.
been really fun.
Okay, next up for me is one I wish I got to read this in a little bit more depth than I did, but it was my last one to read. But I definitely enjoyed what I got out of it. So this is Midlife or How to Hero at 50, number one. This is by Brian Buccellato and Stefano Simone. And it's about a man right here on the cover named Ruben, who works at the LAFD or the Los Angeles Fire Department. And what most of this book, I remember reading the solicitation and it really played up like, oh, he's, gonna get a superpower and stuff like that.
Hmm.
But what most of this is kind of him, I wouldn't say coming to terms with turning 50. Like he's not like torn about it, but it's just, that stage in his life where it begins when he was younger. And actually, I forgot what year it begins in. It's the year Batman and Robin came out because
Oh,
he's talking about
97?
I think it might be
Yeah.
97. Like the issue begins with him and his friends coming out of the movie and being like, "They ruined Batman. The bat nipples. What's going on here?" and stuff. And he's very passionate about this, and he's like, "Now they're never gonna make a Spider-Man movie. They're never gonna make an X-Men movie. This has ruined superhero movies forever." It's really funny. There's a lot of references in this to like real stuff, but you kind of get like he was really passionate
Yeah.
back then about superheroes and all this kind of stuff. Then you get into a little bit more. His dad was a firefighter, and all his friends are like, "So you've talked about becoming a firefighter too," and he's like, "I don't know if I am." But then we jump forward to 2023, where he is a firefighter. He kind of works in not the like
He does more like admin stuff,
yeah,
right?
he does
Yeah.
more admin stuff. Kind of like he has to like uh give people like who there's a guy who says some very bad things to somebody else and he has to give him some time off
Oh,
for
right.
that
Yeah.
kind of a HR department type thing but he's got a wife and he's living his life but it's kind of a humdrum just regular life he has a friend who's a like a unhomed man who lives in a tent off the side of the road and he goes and checks in with that guy and he's like, "Hey, I told you before you probably need to be moving out of here because they're about to do like some construction right here." He's friends with this guy and they kind of talk about like what was the song of our generation and stuff. So there's a bunch of like references that go on right there. But what happens when he comes back the next day and that man's tent is on fire?
Oh.
He runs in there to save him and like a gas canister explodes, but he walks out of it unscathed. So this is really just setting up the character and what the crux of the story is going to be. But I really like the personal side of this. Like,
Yeah.
it's cool. Like, okay, he's going to be like a firefighter who can't get burned. But really, I thought this guy's life was really interesting in the beginning of it. So I feel like if you are around his age, kind of grew up in the 80s and 90s, this will definitely the references will hit home even
Yeah.
more about like he talks about like oh what these movies did that just spit in the face of Tim Burton's beautiful masterpiece of Batman movies and stuff. It's really fun, but I do recommend this one. I'm gonna reread it so I can get it because it's pretty dialogue heavy, but really enjoyed this. So Midlife or How to Hero at 50, number one, and just the one cover for
Just
that
the
one.
one cover. Very nice. So next for me is Mom Breaks the Internet. Mom! You broke the internet, mom. No, that's not what it is about. So, Mom Breaks the Internet number one. This is written by Jay Sandlin, and the art is by Patrick Mulholland. So, I will say that this story does borrow, you could say, from
Ralph
real.
breaks the internet.
Well, no, that not that, but it borrows from real world events. So this is about a girl named Penny Alonso. She's a 15-year-old girl. We first are introduced to her at the very beginning of the issue. She's at a protest, and she's protesting the nationwide ban of social media apps, like TikTok. They don't call it that, but there was the real world thing where maybe TikTok was going to get banned here in the U.S. So it's something like that, kind of. And the ban comes from an executive order by the president of the United States, who has really thin skin. We'll just say that. So that's in this book. So while he's at this protest, there are a group of guys with paintball guns that roll up to the protesters and start shooting at them. So Penny defends herself from one of them by zapping him with a taser, but the cops come and arrest her for aggravated assault. So while all of that's going on, her mother Barbie is actually one of the chief cybersecurity, let's see, chief cybersecurity specialists at this big corporation. They talked a little bit about how she revolutionized how they could all work from home during COVID and things like that. But now everybody's back in their office, so she's very important to their cybersecurity network. She's very computer savvy, that kind of thing. Well, her boss calls her into the office and she gets laid off. They, oh, we're downscaling and reorganizing, that kind of thing that you hear in the corporate world all the time. So she gets laid off from her job on the same day that her daughter gets arrested for aggravated assault. So Barbie has to go bail her out, and the daughter. Something else happens with the cop that arrests Penny that is very uncomfortable for her, and she doesn't want to tell her mom about it. So she's very sort of standoffish with her mom. When they get home. So Barbie, she sort of gets fed up with everything. Fed up with her daughter got arrested when she shouldn't have. He got laid off from her own job when she really shouldn't have. So she gets online because again she's very computer savvy and reaches out to some friends and says that she's tired of playing by the rules of society. And we'll have to see where the story goes from there. We don't really know. We do know that based on the solicitation that he does sort of. This is very I guess like I guess it's very. I don't know if they turn into like computer hackers and take over banks, that kind of thing, very Fight Club style. I don't know if it's anything like that, but it does involve a lot of cyber security stuff that we know from this solicitation. So just really interesting read. Some real world stuff put into a fictional story, but still very interesting. So we just have this one A cover as well. There aren't any variants, I believe. So if that sounds good to you, grab it.
Well, next up for me, I have Star Wars The Mandalorian. This is issue number 5, which is covering episode 5, of course, of The Mandalorian. But this is a pretty big one because this was the introduction of live action Ahsoka
Mm.
in the live action Star Wars universe. So it covers the episode The Jedi. And if you remember that one, that actually has your first appearance of Morgan Elsbeth, who just played a huge
Yeah.
role in Ahsoka, the show, and this has the mention of Thrawn in it. So this feels like the most connected to what we just finished watching, which is really really cool. So if you want, Ahsoka has not appeared in very many comics, like seriously, like a handful of comics. So this is going to be one of her very few appearances until we get some more of her. But very cool issue there. And we've got some variants, which I think this one is super cool. This is the Raza variant. And we have the concept art variant. This is where also you learn that his name is Grogu and not Baby Yoda.
Very nice. A key detail.
A key detail that some people keep forgetting to use, and
That's
they still
right.
call him Baby Yoda.
It's too cute. Baby Yoda just sounds so cute.
Well, see how real Yoda thinks about that.
All right, so next for me is Silver Surfer Rebirth Legacy number 2, continuing this mini series. At the end of last issue, there was somebody who tricked Genis Vell and sent him into basically the end of time. And in this one, he shows up at the end of time and has to face off against I guess is it the Black Surfer? Basically, the
Yeah.
Black Surfer that has Thor's hammer. He's facing off against him. Meanwhile, Warlock and the Infinity Watch they fight the current Silver Surfer because they think he allowed Genesis. They think he stole the time gem
Yeah.
basically, but we know after the first issue that wasn't really him. So they eventually realize sort of what's going on, and they have but they need to find Genis Vell. They don't know where or when he is. So Silver Surfer has to turn to an unlikely ally for help. I'm
Mm.
not going to tell you who it is, but when you see it, it'll make sense. And if you can think about Ron Mars, Ron Lim, awesome 90s cosmic stories. There's one character that fits in with all of that. So, definitely not, you can probably figure it out. But still, just a cool mini series. I just love this era of cosmic Marvel. We have our A cover right there. And then, like I showed you a second ago, this nice Delato Black Surfer with Mjolnir. That's great.
Very cool. And the last one for me that I actually read. So behind the scenes, some of our books had not come in yet.
Mm,
We were preparing for the show. I was gonna read the Skinwalker book from Boom, but it didn't come in, so I wasn't able to review it.
right.
But so I've got one less book, but my last one this week is Green Lantern issue number 4. This one is really cool because, of course, you can see on the cover Flash is in it.
Yep.
I know we talked about before, like, which Flash is this? This is actually Barry
Yeah.
Allen coming back into it, which I thought was really cool. And in this, we saw at the end of the previous issue that Hal Jordan was like, Sinestro's somewhere on Earth, and he's sitting in a diner, and then he like turns around and Sinestro's like
Right.
right there in the diner. Well, that picks up right there where Sinestro is basically like, I want your ring. And Hal's like, one, no, you can't have
How
it. But also,
about no?
yeah, he's like, no, like you're also stuck here, and you're just gonna go do something horrible if you have it. And Sinestro's like, well, give it to me anyways. And Hal's like, it's not gonna work on you. And he's like, I've broken so many Green Lantern rings and made them mine in the past. He's like, okay, and he puts it on and it doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
It's because Hal's got this weird ring right now that we don't even really know the source of
Yeah.
it. So this really does not make Sinestro very happy, and so he basically orders something or someone to attack Ferris Air Force Base. And to figure out what happened, Tom Jordan calls on his good friend, Barry Allen, to come and investigate because he's a forensics investigator, a scientist. So that's really cool. But I do want to say what I liked in this the most, and it could just be when I describe books I really like, it's the human interactions between
Right.
characters because there's actually, Carol Ferris catches up with Barry Allen and they have like a nice like talk together and then later like Kyle and Barry are sitting on the top of a building and they're talking about their lives and they're like Wally just had his third kid and Barry's like, oh, I can't believe
I
that.
haven't
And
seen Hal and Barry just hang out and
yeah,
interact in a long time.
so that I feel like is the highlight of the book.
Yeah.
Those are the moments I remember more than the fights or these character moments. And it's really nice. And, they talk about Barry's like, you still love Carol. And I was like, yep, I always will. And, it's a really nice moment
Yeah.
there. But this also just has the first backup story that's written by Pete Tomasi that is very interesting with when they announced it, it's the character's name was Sin Sun,
Sin Yeah.
which is like the son of Sinestro.
Sinestro's son. Yeah.
Yeah, but the character's not actually called that in the story. His name is
Mm.
Korg, which is kind of weird because that's the character from Marvel, Korg. But
Right. Yeah.
he seems to be like an orphan character, but looks has like the pink skin and stuff like Sinestro, and sneaks out and draws a little mustache on him, and he has a thing that is not. Someone calls out, it's like, "Oh, you're like Sinestro core ring." He's like, "It's not that. It's kind of a knuckle duster type thing that's
Okay.
yellow." Uh, but it doesn't really seem to have too many powers other than some technology stuff. But this kid does declare himself the son of Thal Sinestro, so we'll have to see what happens there. But it's the kind of the kickoff of this new backup story through all of the Green Lantern, through this Green Lantern run. So seems really cool, and I'm excited to learn about that. But really good issue of Green Lantern. We've got some variants for this one. We have this Doc Shaner variant. And we have this, this is the Baldeon variant,
I love that one.
the Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong. Which that's actually a pretty good fight right there, is Green Lantern versus Godzilla.
Yeah, I'd read that, and I guess we will
I
whenever
guess
that
we
comes out. Yeah.
will.
All right, so I got two left. The first of those two is Venom number 26. So this is essentially the first appearance of Black Widow as Widow, which is essentially just Black Widow in full symbiote. She's got her own symbiote now, and we see her in full head to toe symbiote in this. They are in this one. She's trying to track down this mysterious group called No Name, who has vowed revenge on Alchemax for the deaths of several Alchemax employees. They think that Toxin, another one of the symbiotes, they think that he has something to do with it. So Venom, Dylan Brock, is trying to save Toxin, and he will team up with Black Widow slash just Widow in her symbiote gear to go save him. So just it's interesting to see Black Widow in her own Widow, and she's sort of learning how her symbiote can tap into, I guess, the symbiote hive mind and learn some more stuff that she didn't know, and she was able to get memories from one guy and read those memories essentially thanks to that symbiote. So it was kind of interesting to see her learn how to use it and what the
Is
capabilities
this
of this.
616 Black Widow?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
It's not like another universe's Black Widow.
No, I don't think so. No, I
Okay.
mean it all seemed like it was 616. So yeah, Venom 26 here, new Black Widow in a symbiote, and we have a couple of cool variants. We have a Gonzalez, the new champions. Wait, is that? I guess
That
that's
guys is the new champion
yeah. Okay,
character, and I want that
I want
book.
that. Yeah, and I want him to have that little Spider-Man doll with him too. But then we also have this other Gonzalez variant, Venom's lounging.
With that Spider-Man doll floating
Yeah,
there.
taking a day off. And then we have this 1 in 25 Granov variant that we're selling for $15. That one is very cool. And then the last one I have is Blade number 4. Just picking up where the last one left off, where Blade and Tulip and Rotha are going to have to rob a train basically and steal Lucifer's sword because that's the only weapon that can defeat the Adana, which is what Blade accidentally released in the first issue. Um, Doctor Strange does show up and it gives them a little bit of assistance, a little bit more information that they need, plus helps them get on the train. And because they're robbing a train because the guy, his name is Hamilton Achilles, the guy who has that Lucifer sword, he never stays in one place for too long. He essentially lives on a train that never stops. And it's cool. They say the train is made out of adamantium.
Oh
Like I would love to
gosh.
see what that's like. But then when they get on the train, it's full of vampires, which is right up Blade's alley. So he has to get this sword so that he can then defeat the Adana. So this is the only cover we have of that one as well.
Very cool. And so that is it for our early comic preview
Hmm.
video. I hope you enjoyed it. Some really good books came out this week. Head over to infinityflux.net where you can order these books right now. And stay tuned for our video coming up on Wednesday. We'll be going over some of the books you can order a little early so you can get a heads up on some of the cool stuff that is coming up. And thank you so much for watching. And until next time,
Yeah.
bye.